How do I do it all? The blazer gives me the power.
It's about as all action a 20 overs as you can expect. Started off with a 4 and a wicket. Then you had Virat Kohli thriving in the power play. Rajat Patidar smashing through the middle overs. Jitesh Sharma with a cameo at the death. And Jasprit Bumrah doing Jasprit Bumrah things on his return. But at the back end, it finishes with RCB 221 for 5 against Mumbai Indians at the Wankhede. And as we welcome you back on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket Info Timeout, that is a lot to unpack on the couch with Sanjay Bangar, Ambati Rayudu, Matt Roller. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thoughts as we begin?
A very good batting innings from Mumbai Indians, no doubt. There was only one phase wherein probably MI bowlers sort of pulled things a little bit towards them, maybe in the middle overs. But apart from that, it was RCB all the way.
No, I agree. And also bowling changes and some of the field placements were not great at all in today's game. I think they need better plans against a batting lineup like RCB on a pitch that was slow and also gripping. They had no fielders on the onside, especially Hardik bowling those slower cutters into the pitch. He didn't have a deep square leg, he didn't have a fine leg. So I think some of the bowling changes even in the power play were not great. They'll have to really get better if they have to restrict teams.
Lots of pieces to unpack then, but those phases that Sanjay points out are particularly curious because there was a bit of a slowdown after the power play, but in the last 8 overs, RCB have smashed, I think, close to 110 runs.
Yeah, well, I know that's something that RCB are valuing quite a lot this year under the current management is the idea of having those really big overs and making the big overs count. There's obviously that sort of traditional cricketing theory of hitting a boundary and then taking a single, rotating the strike, whereas they feel like they're really doubling down on those massive overs. I've just counted them up off air and I had 6 overs in that innings that were 15 runs or more, 5 overs in that innings with 3 or more boundaries in them. So it really felt like something where they properly cashed in when they got on top of a bowler. And whether or not that proves to be enough on what looks like a very good batting deck and some small boundaries at the Wankhede as well, I think RCB will be really pleased with that innings template as well, with their finishers coming off in Jitesh Sharma, as well as I thought great intent from Devdutt Padikkal at number 3, who might slip under the radar in the rest of this chat.
Yes, and let's start breaking down those pieces. And in the power play, you lose Phil Salt to the second ball, but there was no slowing down. Virat Kohli only had 1 tempo through the power play, and as a result, RCB had 73 in the first 6.
And some of the boundaries were really of good balls because if you think of the lengths that bowled bowled or even the over that Bumrah bowled to Virat, some of these were really good balls and he tried to give himself room by going outside the leg stump. And some of the cricketing shots that he played, those cover drives were absolutely brilliant. So overall, I think the intent that Kohli always speaks of inside the first 6 overs was there to see, and it was, I think, his batsmanship at the top which helped get RCB that wonderful power play that they eventually finished with.
And there was no welcoming back of his dear teammate as he makes his comeback. Second ball, Jasprit Bumrah smashed for 6.
I mean, it's early days for Bumrah as well. Coming back after an injury is not easy. And as Sanjay Bhai pointed out, he knew where he was going to attack Bumrah. It was a pre-planned shot. He didn't want to give room to Virat, but he made room. And his trademark shot over mid-wicket was quite something to watch.
Before I come to you on the phases of Kohli's innings, also worth pointing the importance of Devdutt Padikkal's runs and the fluency he found in the power play.
Yeah, I mean, whenever the team bats first, and I think if you look at his first innings returns versus the second inning returns, Devdutt always excels in the first innings. And one of the things that he's done is that he's certainly worked on his power game a little bit, maybe changed his backlift a little bit because earlier, whatever I saw of him early times, he was having a lowish backlift, but now with the preloaded backlift, it is certainly helping his power game, and whenever he's getting those opportunities, could be inside the power play as well as outside the power play, I think he's doing a very good role by not slowing things down. So if Salt is getting out inside power play, he's making sure that the template doesn't really get affected, and so is the case when he bats after the power play of not eating too many balls and thereby depriving Patidar of the opportunity to take on spin.
Now to you, Virat Kohli, 36 of 19 in the power play. Is there anything to make from the overs that followed? Because the next 6 overs, RCB score 41 runs.
I mean, yeah, I think if you were being very critical, you could say maybe Kohli could go slightly harder in that phase, but there's obviously also that element of partnership batting, isn't there, where particularly with Padikkal playing with the intent that he did, and then Patidar also coming in and, you know, obviously seeing off Bumrah's first over when he came back for, I think, the 11th. I think given the score that RCB have ended up with, I think Kohli's done a pretty good job at laying the foundations, but I think, what was it, 29 balls to reach 50, so maybe slightly slower towards the end of his innings, but I suppose that's Kohli's game really, isn't it? He sort of goes fast, maybe takes his time a little bit in the middle somewhat, and then tries to really cash in when he's still in at the back end.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think the surface was not easy. The ball was gripping a little bit. It was not a typical Wankhede pitch. It's quite slow, to be very honest. That's why people were trying to bowl those cutters. Even, Mitchell Santner's, some of the balls were gripping. In the context of all that, Virat has laid a very good platform. That was very, very important. And they have scored, according to me, about 30-35 runs over par. So it's a fantastic innings by Virat Kohli to set things up.
Is that a sentiment you echo about the pitch and what the par score is here?
200 could be a par score, and I generally agree with Rayudu because he's played a lot of cricket on this venue, and he was also saying off air that if there is no dew factor, then this is going to be a hard one to chase down, because dew is a critical factor, and MI would hope that it comes down tonight, if at all there was a one evening wherein they would need the dew. But overall, if you see, it's not only a particular batsman, but all the batters who got an opportunity. Rajat Patidar, MI would have wanted less of spin to be used against him, thereby not using Puthur that much. But again, highlights the fact that Rajat Patidar is as good a striker of a cricket ball as with spin, also with pace.
And I guess that is where we should immediately get into, because Patidar, as the numbers say on the screen, 64 of 32, he was 8 of his first 10 balls. And then came the acceleration. What is that? 56 of 22. How do you assess his innings? I
think it's been a brilliant middle order batting innings, according to me. Because you need to take that little bit of time. We have seen KKR batsmen do that. Those first 10 balls, when you get set and get the hang of the pace and the bounce of the pitch, and later on when he found spin, that's where his momentum started against Mitchell Santner. And taking on Mitchell Santner was quite brave on a surface where some of the balls were gripping, and to stand and hit those 2 sixes that he has hit over long gone was quite remarkable, because the ball was at pace and also it was not quite full. It was slightly sort of a good length, and to pick that ball off, that set the tone for his innings. And later on, as Sanjay Bhai said, his batting against pace as well was quite impressive, and also some very, very ordinary field placements, according to me.
When you talk about the hitting against pace, that 17th over from Hardik Pandya with some of the shots in it and 23 runs already feels like a big moment in this game.
It does, and to an extent, what gives you success can also at times is your falling, because Hardik has been very, very impressive with these lines, because what Patrick Cummins did last season of bowling those slightly wider lines, cutters into the wicket, he bowled those brilliant 2 overs. Hardik brought them in the game by picking up 2 wickets, but that was his undoing as well, because here you had a set batter who was moving across and who was sort of hitting the ball over square leg. He could have maybe bowled with that field for a couple of balls, and then maybe could have had an extra fielder on the onside for the remaining part of the over.
Sanjay Bhai, he didn't have a fine leg, he didn't have a deep square leg. He's bowling on a slow pitch where the ball was gripping a bit, and he's bowling off cutters into the wicket. I don't know how it makes sense to me. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, that field.
There are other parts of MI's decision making in this innings that I want to come to, but I think it would be severe injustice if we don't talk about Jitesh Sharma with the 40 of 19, which if it were to be the kind of high scoring thriller we could expect at Wankhede, Those are the kind of knocks that define those contests.
Yeah, and I think Sanjay made the point before in the pre-show about the value of those capped Indian players to RCB this year and why they look like a stronger squad. I think in our collective opinion, I think the fact that you have someone who's played, not a huge amount of international cricket by any means in Jitesh's case, but an experienced player who's done that role a fair bit in the IPL and has that confidence to come in that what is often quite a punishing and difficult role at number 6 in the IPL. You often don't face that many balls, but when you get the opportunity like that to really cash in at a venue with relatively small boundaries, really impressive knock, and one that should stand them in pretty good stead for the rest of the tournament.
That swept 6 of Trent Bolt.
I think after Sudarshan's straight drive, that's the shot of the tournament for me till now.
Thoughts on just watching that shot and the execution of it?
Well, I mean, he's got beautiful hands, and it's not the usual muscular striker of a cricket ball, wherein you have this, baseball side step, back lifts, but he stays quite low, and because of that, I think he can use the wrist really well, and those were evident because if you had to pick up those 2 shots, one over square leg and one over fine leg, you could clearly see that the wrist really came into good effect. So it is another thing of how batsmen with different mechanics can still succeed and have their own individuality all written all over it.
Yeah, he's played a huge hand in RCB adding those runs, and it could yet have been more. 221 for 5 includes over number 18 and 20, which has gone from 14, marking the return of who else but Jasprit Bumrah. Assessments on his return and just how he stopped the runs at the death.
It is trademark Bumrah's bowling, his Yorkers and that one good bouncer to Jitesh where it hit the gloves. That really looks like Bumrah is back. Not maybe at his best, especially with the new ball, but in the death he was quite impressive.
Just briefly on Bumrah, I would have loved to see them use those last 2 overs a little bit earlier. Not completely different phase of the innings, but just that much earlier, because if you could have had a situation where Bolt's bowling at the end to Krunal Pandya, for example, rather than to a set Jitesh Sharma, I think that's quite a big difference potentially. So much as Bumrah himself very impressive, I think that's something to consider is can you just shift his overs 1 over sooner so that you can potentially break the game open with that wicket.
Yeah, it is part of a lot of conversations that I guess we will get to pick on at the end of this contest, because you also look at that scorecard and MI have effectively reduced this to 11 aside and not 12 aside, giving Vignesh Puthur 1 over, Impact subbing him off in the 15th. But just want to get your thoughts on what you saw of Bumrah on his return.
Usual Bumrah, as you would expect, not at his best, but he was hitting those speeds which are expected of him, used the slower ball really well and controlled the flow of runs against set batters, and that tells you a story that the kind of mental edge he still holds as also the skill set that he possesses.
All right, the chase is just about to get underway. 222 is what MI need. RCB being given a 78% chance by ESPN Cricinfo forecaster. But what does the couch feel?
I think about an 87% chance.
Oh. Give me your final prediction.
I think RCB going to win this game.
Comfortable, or is it going down the way?
I think comfortably.
Sanjay?
I'm hoping for a close game, but RCB well ahead in this game.
I think RCB will win a close-ish game where MI are maybe 10 runs short.
All those predictions make for a great game. And give us.
No, my predictions are never right.
I want to see Rayudu invest in Ravies or something like that. Try and come up with some kind of prediction model where he comes out with 87%. It's brilliant.
Not even a single prediction of mine has gone right. So I'm hoping MI wins, but I know RCB will.
All right, we will leave it here as the chase gets underway and Rohit Sharma almost falls at the first ball, which explains the reactions you just saw. Gentlemen, you will be back at the end of the game. Can't wait for it. Thank you, Sanjay, Rayudu, Matt. Be sure to catch us at the end of this chase. There will be a lot to dissect at the end of this contest in Wankhede. It's so important to both the sides. RCB will be 3 wins out of 4 if they win this. MI will be 1 win in 5 if they lose. Be back with us at the end of the game on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricinfo Timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.